Well, the first thing I had to object to how they place the voting booth. The law says that the scrutineers must see the body of the person voting, though they mustn't be able to see where they, except for one of the buildings, all the rest were wrong. So I had them change, and I'm going to ask our chief scrutineer to send out a general notice to say to people they should stop the voting if they cannot see the person. Because you could tell me the person putting a cell phone, but if the person has 2 cell phones. So that is the first thing. Outside of that, it looks normal. The person, the agent, can reject it, and the law says that once an agent is appointed, they have to be in the process. So if they object going forward, who will sign the statement of polling soon? So there is power that's inherent in it that could be utilized.
No, I know you had a long campaign, but now that you've got the ballot, as of today, what will these elections mean for you and your party?
Well, it means more for the people of Guyana than me. I would say these elections are critical because it's an opportunity to ensure there's a reallocation of the resources that come from oil to the people of Guyana, rather than the present approach in which most of the resources go to family, friends, and favorites. The second thing that makes these elections important is that the government has launched on a path of directing, dominating, and controlling public servants, everyone. So in some regard, a victory for us is a victory for freedom. The other thing that I think this election should be recognized for is that it is the first full election, I would say, the first general and regional elections after the utilization of oil resources. And we had the opportunity to point out to the Guyanese people that the resources from oil and gas are not meeting them. And therefore, we undertook to ensure that those resources meet the people of Guyana with our people-centered development strategy.
Mr. Norton, last night you brought up persons transporting back office to bordering communities, along with members of the joint services coming under attack. Could you respond to that, sir?
Well, first of all, I'm always in solidarity with our joint services, but this government has enough resources to purchase boats that have some kind of protection. Imagine in this modern era, with oil in 1-ton numbers, you have people in a wooden boat that a bullet goes through it, it sinks. Additionally, I've always argued, even when I met President Ali, that we need to have the technology installed at the border areas so that you can keep up to date with what is happening on the border and not have to wait till what happens if they shot everybody in that boat? There's no mechanism for the government to know until somebody come up with it. So we have to use the technology to dispose of to ensure that we can secure our borders. And so I would say the soldiers are at a disadvantage. The other thing is that the government has whittled down the training of the Guyana Defense Force. I think we need to ramp it up. There was a time when the Guyana Defense Force was one of the best in jungle warfare. Now, if Kappa Puku men are developing the guts to attack you, it is saying that they don't have respect for you. And therefore, I believe we need to put the training to where it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so that any action, people would recognize that you have well-equipped soldiers there that could deal with it. As it stands, it seems to be a free-for-all. Anybody with a bad man name could come, do what they want, and go by their business. And you get a report from the chief of staff saying we're monitoring it, all is good. It's the day when it becomes fatal, then we will.
Mr. Norton, you earlier talked about the reallocation of oil resources. Sir, regardless of how this election goes, Guyana will continue to earn more revenue from the oil sector in the coming years. Politically speaking, where do you stand with respect to any sort of shared governance or executive power sharing, so that the country can manage the resources collectively? At least that's what some people want.
I have no problem with shared governance, but don't forget, shared governance is part of what is consociational democracy. And there are various types of shared governance. So to just say shared governance, for instance, you can do weighted majority voting, meaning that if you're going to pass a measure, it has to have a certain percentage of the opposition, a certain percentage of the government. And that is a good mechanism to ensure that there is compromise and consensus. But people tend to restrict power sharing to sharing of government positions. There are a number of approaches to shared governance. I embrace shared governance as a concept, but will be very particular, meticulous as it comes to which one of the systems of shared governance we will use, or if we will come up with a hybrid, kind of an eclectic approach where we pull from.
Thank you. That's all. Can we have the first please?
I didn't remember it.